Hi and welcome to this SEO site audit for Altgen. In this audit we're going to be looking at both on-page factors and off-page factors affecting your site. There really are some fantastic opportunities available to you and you're in a very good position to take advantage of them. So I'm quite excited to take you through that. But first I want to just look at some factors that would be affecting how we can rank from an on-page perspective, and then some of the incoming stats coming into the site that are also affecting you. And then we can take a look at some keywords and a very brief competitor audit so you can see how you compare to your competitors. Just very quickly, if we look at the browsable versions of your site, I see you presented me with 5 different URLs that you own. As discussed, it would be best to focus on just one, and then we break it out per country instead of having multiple sites, because then we start running into duplicate content issues. And it's not really all that difficult to split a site up per country. For instance, I've got an example over here with, let me just pull it up, Accenture, where you can see here this ZA is indicating it's picking up what country I'm in and it's serving the relevant content. Another way of indicating this, which can also be combined with the previous method, is we simply have landing pages specifically targeting the different regions or services, such as, for instance, recruitment agencies in Cape Town would be a separate page and ranked separately from recruitment agencies in Dubai or Abu Dhabi. It's a far more effective way of signaling to Google what content is relevant for particular search terms. One of the very simple little thing that definitely has to be tweaked in the site, I see you do have a security certificate installed. However, your site is currently serving up 2 different versions to Google, one being the HTTP version and the other being the HTTPS version. Now this can sometimes be viewed as duplicate content because you're essentially showing Google 2 different websites. So this definitely needs to be cleared up. It's not very difficult. All we need to do is set up a redirect from your HTTP to your HTTPS, which is the security version of the site. So just something small. Now, looking at your site itself, one of the first things that always jumps out to me is, what is your call to action? Google has become very good at picking up whether or not people find your website useful. And one of the ways they evaluate that is they measure bounce rate. So now bounce rate is basically seeing how much time people actually spend on your website, how much do they interact with your website before leaving. Obviously, if let's say we were ranking for blue shoes in Chicago, someone landing on our site wouldn't find that content on the website at all and would immediately leave. And that would tell Google that obviously we're not relevant for that particular term and they drop us from it. And so it's very important when someone lands here, and this is something we need to take into consideration with the redesign, is what do you want people to do? Now, obviously, you've got 2 main types of person coming to your website. You have companies that you want to work with, and you have job seekers. And so we want to make it clear to them immediately what is it that they should be paying attention to. So one way of doing it is literally just having 2 different call to action buttons on your site. An example of a site that did that quite nicely is Ecotech. Here we'd rather make this into, this area would be targeted at actual companies, and then they can see, basically contact you for recruitment services. And then over here you would have your job positions available for job seekers. So here you can see we've got a site that's got clear call to actions. When people land here, they know what to do, they know what to expect. It's not difficult to try to figure out, oh dear, what's happening here. As far as the look and feel of the site goes, I think that a lot of the groundwork has been done very nicely with this site. As already mentioned, I absolutely love your logo, and I really think that should be played up on. If we look at your jobs page, you've got this beautiful, where they've, well, not beautiful, but this overlay of your logo works nicely, and I think we should really play around with it a little bit. Also, if we look at for instance, like how the brochure, how nice that looks with the overlay of the logo. So maybe playing with something like that could work very, very nicely, and not, instead of redesigning the wheel, we simply improve on what's already there. Because this sort of thing works very nicely. It's just the content itself, as you said, on the inner pages and especially on the homepage does look quite generic. Right, so let's just jump into a couple of very brief SEO checks. The site is mobile friendly, which is great, and obviously the redesign would need to be mobile friendly. One of the reasons for this being is the majority of internet traffic is now actually mobile. So it is very important that people landing on your site with a mobile version, they find it accessible, one, and two, they know what to do. So for instance, someone landing on your site, they're not necessarily just wanting to look at your social profiles. They want to know how to contact you. And so again, it's very important to have a clear call to action. An issue with the site at the moment is its page speed. Again, particularly on mobile, you can't have a slow site. So this would definitely need to be optimized and tweaked once we have the new design out. Then looking at structured data. Now, structured data is a way for Google's always trying to understand what the content on a web page is about. And for instance, we've got the opportunity in your job sections to actually be using structured data. Here's actually some of the examples of structured data. So for instance, clearly signaling to Google that a piece of information is talking about salary, or what are the experience requirements. And this would help with the indexing of jobs so that your jobs would actually rank better and possibly also get more traffic so that you can get the highest quality people applying as possible. Then on to looking at your page metas. I can see that this has already been set up to a degree, which is great. But it could be better. One of my biggest issues and concerns at the moment is that your category pages, so if I look at your About Us and your News sections, those have all been indexed. Let me just show you what I mean. So these pages, if I start looking at there's page 1, and if I can go to page 2, and this content is currently being served to Google. This is content that doesn't need to be there. It is low quality content, and normally a person wouldn't have this indexed. Another issue is this content is exactly the same in the About Us section. So again, you're serving Google with duplicate content, and we really want to avoid that. So that's just one of the little on-page tweaks we'd need to do. Another on-page tweak was when I was looking at your content on the site, I noticed that you don't have, you're not using H1 tags even. So if I show you over here, we don't have any heading tags. If I was to compare that to one of your job listings, here we've got heading tags, view page source. Here we've got our main page heading. It's very important to be showing this so that Google actually knows what your pages are about. Whereas we don't even have that on some of your inner pages. So that definitely needs to be cleared up. Going back to, right, so if we take a look at how the metadata for the site has been set up, and this is what the previous SEO company would have done. They've done a pretty good job. I see quite a lot of varied meta descriptions, and the titles are nicely set up, so that's great. They could be a little better. For instance, if we were to be looking at job listings in Kenya or Nairobi or the Northern Cape, you wouldn't just want it to say Northern Cape, it would be renewable energy jobs Northern Cape. Or at the very least, jobs Northern Cape, because the page isn't about the Northern Cape. It needs to actually say that it has to do with renewable energy. So just little tweaks like that definitely need to be cleared up. And then if we just look at a brand search of your name, so if someone looks up Altgen, and I see that a lot of people you're getting quite a bit of traffic, roughly around 400 searches monthly, which is great because that tells me that your name is out there. People are actually going out and looking you up. A lot of that traffic would be coming from people seeing your name listed on various recruitment sites, job posting sites. So then they'd come and they'd look you up specifically. But an issue that immediately jumps out is the fact that this is a competing page, this is a different company, this is a different company, this Facebook page has nothing to do with you. But the 4 stars catches someone's attention, and so you're probably losing quite a bit of traffic to this page and to this video even. And so one of the things that I try to do when I'm working is I do also try to push the social quite a lot. I see that your Facebook page really does look great. You've got some great reviews. And so we'd want to try, ideally, also get your social showing up here so that when people do look you up, they don't get distracted by other companies. Obviously, also just updating your listings just to show that we've got all the information that's really necessary. You haven't this isn't verified. And so we must definitely just make sure that your Google My Business is properly verified again. All right, so let's just take a look at some of the stats pertaining to your site. So as mentioned before, if we look at the versions of your site that are currently being served to Google, the links are all going to the HTTP version of your site. So it's very important that we set up the redirect so that when people link to your site and when you're building links, basically by posting jobs, they're going back to the correct version, which is your secure version of your site. What is very good about you is you've already set up the groundwork. One of the nice things about being in your industry is you're naturally almost doing very basic SEO. Every time you post a job, you're naturally building links to your site. And I can see, if I look over here, where we're looking at new backlinks versus lost backlinks, we have a steady sort of balance between new links coming in and new links being lost, and that would most likely be from jobs being posted and then jobs being removed again. So there's a healthy flow happening on the site, and that's absolutely fantastic. However, there's a lot of optimization that can be done. At the moment, if we look at your anchor cloud, now anchor text is when someone posts a link, the actual text of the link that a person views. So for instance, click here or read this, read more, recruitment websites, those sort of things are what we call anchor text. And at the moment, your anchor text is mostly what we call branded. So it's relating directly to your site. Altgen, altgen.co.za, altgen.co. Now this is absolutely great. Again, this helps to lay the foundation. But an anchor cloud like this will help you rank for your brand name, but it's not going to help you necessarily rank for other terms. And so we'd want to get this to be more diversified. So saying things like recruitment agency in Cape Town, renewable energy jobs, Abu Dhabi, for instance. At the moment, all your link distribution is coming from South Africa. We'd want to start seeing it expand to the other countries that we want to be targeting as far as possible, but that's not really massively important, but it can be helpful. Looking at the backlinks coming into your site, really good stuff happening, lots of authority, which is great. A lot of these I can see are from jobs that have been posted, as well as additional info where you've been linked. We've got some business directories which would have most probably been posted by the previous SEO guys. So again, good groundwork has been laid, but our anchor text, if we look here, we're just really looking at your, it's not very diversified. It's still very related around your brand, which is good. Now we can start diversifying. If I was to compare this, for instance, to Sean Energy, when we go into if we look at his anchor text, let me just actually open it. You'll start seeing here that they've got other terms that are coming up. So we definitely want to start incorporating that in your site so that we can start pushing, like Shaw Energy, starting to rank for multiple different terms instead of just looking at your own domain, which is what you're mostly ranking for at the moment. Right, so let's just take a look at some keyword suggestions and see what opportunities are available to you. Now, when looking at the available opportunities, while there is quite a lot of search data for people looking for renewable energy jobs and search terms related to renewable energy, I tend to find, particularly to do with South Africa and the UAE as well, there are a lot more searches surrounding jobs when it comes to renewable resources, as opposed to company related sources, so people looking up recruitment agencies and renewable energy. However, there is a heck of a lot of searches when we start looking at recruiting agencies, and surprisingly, considering the volume of these searches, the competition is actually surprisingly low, which is very good news for us. So let me just quickly take you through it. If we look at South Africa, so within South Africa, this is just a snapshot of some available opportunities that we could go after that would definitely get a great return on investment. Obviously, we want to be focusing not on job-related searches, but on recruitment agency-related searches, because that's the sort of thing that your ideal client is going to be looking for. Obviously, if we can find terms relating to things such as renewable energy, that's the absolute win. But on average, I'm only seeing sort of search volumes of 20 to 30 a month. So while we'd want to incorporate those into our campaigns, the real money is going to be just going after the big terms, such as recruitment agency in Cape Town, recruitment agency in South Africa. Obviously, these will take a little bit of time to rank for, but once we're there, it's going to be worth, well, I'm sure I don't need to tell you, if you have 2,000 people looking at recruiting agencies in Cape Town and you're being served up first, you're definitely going to be having a good number of those looking for the sorts of services that you offer. Other options is looking at engineering style recruiting terms. And there's a fair body of these, particularly in South Africa. So, for instance, energy recruitment agencies in South Africa. And obviously, dealing with green energy, quite a lot of your jobs types, and I saw on your website, have to do with engineering. So we can bucket it out like that as well. If we break down engineering, here we can see these are all South African searches. We've got a fair number of people looking for recruiting services for engineering. If we hone in specifically on engineering agencies in Cape Town with 2,000 searches monthly, we can see that the sites that have been up there they've been there pretty consistently, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, we've got our number one site has just recently jumped up and started ranking out of pretty much nowhere, and so it's not that these sites are so stuck there that there's no way that we can beat them, which is always good to see. Right, so if we look at these domains, there's quite a lot happening here. A lot of them have quite a couple of backlinks. Like we've got a very strong backlink profile for Frog Recruit, but Key Recruitment is ranking more on their domain authority than actual building up an authority of their page. And if we see how they've just jumped up onto the first page, we can see this is Key Recruitment. They've literally recently hit page 1. It shows us that this particular search term, even though it's got so many searches, it's competitive, but it's not like these pages are so stuck there, there's no way we can get ahead of them, which is really good news, particularly for a search term with as high traffic as this one. Then, and here's where it gets exciting, if we start looking at the numbers for recruiting agencies in the Middle East, there is a lot. And I mean, there would be, because the whole industry runs off of expats working in the country. So there are a lot of opportunities. Obviously, recruitment agencies in Dubai is pretty competitive, and it would be with a search volume like that. But as I'm going to show you now, again, these domains aren't actually the sorts of authority sites that cannot be beaten. So with a properly targeted keyword strategy and with a properly set up landing page that's targeting the customer, so we're making sure there's a low bounce rate, we're making sure that we're giving them the content we want, we're making sure that the content is properly targeted at the client, and then we build up the authority of that page, we really, really could see some very exciting traffic coming into your site. So if we actually look at recruitment agencies in Dubai, we can see that there's a lot of play. There's a lot of coming and going. There's a lot of, the sites here aren't stuck. It does mean that the competition is pretty fierce. But when I say pretty fierce, I was surprised. If I look now at the actual stats of the sites, again, nothing's even hitting 50 yet. they're pretty competitive, they're pretty strong, but they're only pretty strong, if I can put it that way. So this is really good news for us. I wouldn't go after recruitment agencies in Dubai to start off with, but once we've built up the domain authority of your site, and we've gone after some lower competition terms, this is the sort of thing that we can start aiming for. And I don't think I need to really break down the value to you to be how valuable it would be to be able to go after something like recruitment agencies in Dubai. We would, however, start off with something smaller. For instance, looking at job recruiting agencies in Dubai. That's now a smaller term. There's not as much competition going into it. And so we'd want to be looking at more long tail terms and really trying to hone in on what keywords we can go after that's going to give you a good return on investment, that we're going to be ranking for relatively quickly while we start going after the long, more difficult to rank terms, such as recruitment agencies in Dubai. Some other examples, I was trying to find terms relating to green energy and renewable energy, and I found, especially in the States and the UK, there's quite a lot of there's quite a lot of keywords. So I don't know how open you are to looking at clients getting people jobs for other countries, aside from just looking at the UAE and South Africa and Kenya. But there's definitely quite a lot of opportunity in the UK and the US. So yeah, it's very exciting. There's a lot that can be done. And really the numbers, if I'm looking at the sites that are currently ranking, we can definitely get ahead of them, which is very, very exciting. It's not often that I see this sort of volume. And we're not even looking at job-related searches here. Okay, so if we just compare your domain where it currently is to some of the sites that are ranking for some of these big terms, we can see that if we look at your page authority compared to some of these pages. Now, domain authority looks at your domain as a whole, and page at your specific ranking page. Now, because you've built up quite a bit of you have quite a bit of authoritative links coming into your homepage, and I mean you've got your social going. You really do have a great page authority for your site. It's pretty unusual to see a domain authority that's this much lower than a page authority, though. But it's not an issue. Anyway, if we compare your page authority to some of your competitors, you're already doing pretty well. And so the big thing is our foundation has been laid. What is concerning, though, is that you've got quite a big discrepancy between your Majestic Trust Flow and Majestic Citation Flow. Now, what these two stats look at is basically what is the quality of links coming into your site. So the links coming in are pretty powerful, which is great, but they're not always as trusted. Majestic is a completely different service with their own algorithms where they compare sites. All right, so to summarize very briefly, some of the things that we do need to look at working on is we need to provide a clearer call to action to people who are landing on the site, which will help decrease our bounce rate. We could definitely do with more paid on-page content. The on-page content is pretty thin at the moment, so if we could look at developing that, that would be great. I see that you, as I mentioned in one of the emails, you've got someone who's going to be writing some content and some brief news content. It might be worthwhile to look at actually writing content that is keyword optimized so that we can also start ranking for more long tail terms. It's always ideal to have about 500 to 800 words on a page, because when you're sitting with 100 or 200 words on a page, that can be considered to be light content. And Google's not too crazy about light content. It depends. I mean, your homepage is ranking pretty well with nothing on it. But it would be nice to be able to build out a little bit more as far as content goes. On-page metadata, not bad. Could be definitely better. H1 tags, you don't even have an H1 tag on your homepage. You don't have H1 tags in some of your inner pages, so that needs to be cleared up. It would be useful if we have actual landing pages related to the particular services and locations we're trying to target. So each one would have its own SEO terms which we'd be focused on. Mobile and site speed needs to be improved, and that would be done after the new site redesign. And then when we're looking at certain content that follows a structured format, it would be useful to actually set it up with schema so that Google can properly read and understand what that content is about. As far as the off page goes, we're starting off on an excellent base. I don't have to do a link detox. I don't have to fix anything. Nothing's broken. It's just not tightened up. So we want to make sure that everything is properly indexed, everything is properly cleaned up, your Google My Business is actually verified. Things like that need to be tidied up. Anchor text needs to be diversified, so we want to start bringing in things so that Google can see that we're actually a recruitment company instead of just looking at the branding of the site. And we can do that through things like doing PR outreach, press releases, and there's a variety of different tools and tactics that I use to get this done. Then we want to keep on boosting the authority because as we see, the baseline's been done, you already have decent authority, but you're still quite a way behind those sites that are ranking top for the more competitive terms, such as recruitment agencies in Cape Town and Dubai. And then lastly, we want to keep on building your trust. And one of the ways we do this is with social. So social is very important. No website is an island. And Google does understand that if a site isn't getting social traffic, something is up. So we must definitely keep on with the social. It's very good that you've got her working on trying to promote the social more. So they were definitely going down the right path. Right, I really look forward to chatting with you and hearing your thoughts and planning a way forward. When I see you, then we can go over how we would go about structuring the keywords that we would be targeting. I really look forward to hearing your feedback and your thoughts. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this. Cheers.